A Mother's Lamentation by Inez Riley, taken from Chapter 2. She loved them fiercely, her whole family. Yet tonight, she was doubting her ability to sustain it. She was doubting her strength as a mother and a wife. In the back of her mind, in the smallest corner of herself, she felt incapable and incompetent in the role she was meant to play. Incapable and incompetent were words she never spoke out loud. She did not want them to be in her children's wheelhouse, or hers for that matter. She had heard them so often growing up. Her mother used those words to describe herself and her womb, the essence of her womanhood. She watched Georgia dwindle away every time she would speak those words. They were like broken wicker in her spirit. It poked holes in her and allowed her essence to deflate ever so slowly. Those words made her mother bitter and calloused, until eventually she turned those words into weapons and threw them at Ruby. Each time it cut into her gentle soul with the ferociousness of 1,000 blades. She tried to run from them, but they hunted her down, attempting to destroy her. Ruby was saved by one of her mother's friends. Miss Brenda was a steady rain on a hot summer's night. She was refreshing and invigorating. She used her words to soothe and heal Ruby's wounded soul. She smiled every time Ruby walked into the room and told her how much she meant to the world, how God knew this earth needed a Ruby just like her to make it a better place. She built her up and strengthened her from the inside out. She never let a day go by without holding her close and whispering in her ear, "You are one of God's most precious jewels. Never forget that, Ruby. Do you hear me?" And she would nod her head, sometimes through tears and a heart that was about to break with the pain of rejection she felt from her mother's words. Ruby did not know why God had allowed her to be what crushed her mother so. Why was she the one that brought about so much anguish and pain? She knew this to be true because she could see it in her mother's eyes every time she looked at her. Raw heartache. She was a constant reminder of what her mother lost the day she was born. In the throes of bitter torment, her mother screamed out, "All of the children that were taken from me are worth more than all the rubies." Miss Brenda was at the house that dreadful day and grabbed Ruby up and rushed out of the door as the tears coursed down her cheeks. Don't you believe that for one moment. She put her down on the ground and knelt in front of her. Do you hear me? You cannot take on the burden that is your mother's to bear. It is not yours. You are not to blame. Say it back to me. I am not to blame. Ruby remembered repeating it. She remembered having to repeat it to herself many more times. She would cover her ears and run from the words that spilled from her mother's mouth, heart, and soul full of gall, repeating those words. I am not to blame. Ruby moved closer to Jerome as the memory of those times broke through her resolve. In and out, in and out, in and out. I am not to blame, she whispered into the dark.